Hi, welcome to Active Teaching Models to Prepare Students in Telehealth. I'm Laureen Tavalero-Riley, and I just want to do a shout out to my peers who are presenting with me. In full disclosure, we're used to Zoom, and we're trying to get used to BlueJeans, so we're not it's not as fluid as we would like it to be in terms of getting from one person to the next. So Carol, can you do a shout out? Dr. Carol Moriarty?
Hi, I'm Carol Moriarty.
Dan?
Hi, I'm Dan Lorimer.
Yeah. We're from the Community College of Philadelphia, and thanks for joining us today. We're going to talk about, and again, full disclosure, this is a work in progress. We started doing this model this year, and we'll talk about how it has evolved in part because we very quickly, all of us, had to start presenting more in a virtual environment. So, oops, let me just do this in slideshow. So the objectives of this particular presentation is to explore real-life practice strategies in an educational setting. So when we use telehealth, we're actually using the same technology that we would be using when we were doing telehealth. So it's not like we're using technology to show somebody how to do something. This is the exact technology that students would use in a telehealth model. Also, to develop an understanding of how the technology actually can support the active learning, and to explore some creative. I'm just going to ask folks if you could just mute yourselves. Just mute yourselves. Thank you so much. Thanks. So those are the objectives of the presentation. And then when we move forward and look at the specific telehealth objectives, I guess it's how many folks have had some experience doing telehealth? There's not a big group, so if you can unmute yourself to make a comment, that would be helpful. Has anyone used telehealth in teaching? Yes. Hi.
Not in teaching, no.
Oh, in real life, yes, because we're all
in real life.
Yeah. Anyone use it in teaching or in real life? Yeah, we certainly have become much more familiar with telehealth than we did 3 months ago. So the specific objectives of telehealth learning is to number one, understand some of the ethical and legal implications. So we all sort of weave ethical and legal implications and objectives into our courses. And this objective, this strategy, this teaching strategy, if you will, allows us to kind of weave that in a nice way. So what's also interesting, it also allows us to show students how things can quickly shift. So as we shifted forward to a virtual environment and receiving telehealth, in many medical practices, many of the restrictions over the last 2 months have changed. Specific to, having the border issue. If I had a license in Pennsylvania, but I was seeing someone in New Jersey, some of that loosened up. Some of the ability for practitioners to bill in telehealth has changed. Like, for example, billing using just a phone may not have been permissible a few months ago, and it is now in some situations. I do some work in geriatric psychiatry, so it was a struggle to have some of those folks switch to a Zoom or a virtual environment where they had to get on a computer. So we were allowed to see some of our folks or listen to some of our folks via the telephone. Telehealth also enables the ability to work on communication skills. And this is funny too, because as we're all teaching virtually, this is what I'm hearing consistently. I'm so exhausted by the end of the day. People will say, oh, it's so nice, you're working from home. It's not, is it? You're sitting by a computer all day. My friends who are doing telehealth, I have several friends who are psychiatrists who are doing telehealth, seeing their patients this way, say the same thing. And one of the issues is that we're completely engaged on a screen. If we were in a classroom, or if we were in an office, or if we were someplace else, there's other things that are around that kind of distract us a little bit. When we're teaching in a telehealth, when we're teaching in a virtual platform, we are on that screen. So this telehealth strategy allows us to sort of work with students on your observational skills, on your communication skills, on your facial expressions. If people will notice what you're saying in an office, you may be able to turn around and make a face. In a classroom, you may be able to do that. You can't do that in this kind of a platform. The other thing is explaining how do you use the equipment? So how do you use the technology to the best of your ability? I think we can all laugh when we all started doing Zoom or Blue Jeans or whatever platform we were doing a few months ago. There were several awkward moments where maybe students or faculty were still trying to figure things out, didn't mute themselves when they thought they were muted, had their camera in odd positions. So understanding how to use the equipment is another outcome of this activity. And then how do you record what you did, what you said? So it's a nice ability to kind of, again, use technology in a way that it is used. Telehealth is a real thing, and help students to negotiate how they can become more proficient in that platform. So when we talk about attention spans, all of our attention spans are, we can pick on the millennials, we can pick on the Z generation, Generation X and Z, but all of our attention spans are dwindling. In 2000, the average attention span was 12 seconds. In 2013, it was 8 seconds, and goldfish is 9 seconds. So we're right about there where the goldfish are. It's a little scary, isn't it? When we talk about attention, we liked this model. And I thought it gave I was really connecting and thinking about some of the work we all do with our students when we talk about this. We talk about the focused attention. This is the easiest, and the divided attention is the most difficult. So the focused attention is, hi Dan, are you with me? And the person hopefully will respond to that. And then you look at the sustained attention, the ability to carry out repetitive tasks. So how many times, I know this has happened to me, and I know this has happened to Dr. Carol Moriarty, who's presenting with me today, have we walked into a building and said, wait a minute, where am I going? Where am I supposed to, so it's a simple task. We're walking into a building, we know where our offices are, but we can very easily get distracted from that. Selective attention, performing tasks while there are distractions. So I know myself, there's things that I can do when there's distractions. I can't concentrate necessarily when there's distractions, but I may be able to, do something very rote, fold laundry. If I folded laundry, fold laundry. I don't know, do something that's very rote while there's distractions going on. And then we look at alternating attention. We look at, listening, typing. The example they gave is putting facts on a form, going back and forth, shifting our attention back and forth. You can see how that can become a little more difficult. And when we think about some of our students who test, like in the Disability Center, they need a different kind of environment to test. We're looking at folks who may have some struggles with the selective or the alternating or the divided attention. But when we move into practice, especially for nurses or medical assistants or physical therapists or whoever your students might be, rapidly switching as is listed in the divided attention from one task to another while you're getting distracted in many different ways can be challenging and sometimes dangerous. So the telehealth platform allowed us to kind of experiment with some of that, and you'll see what I mean. We're going to do a little experiment while we're here and show you sort of how it worked and how you can very easily get distracted because you're not just looking at someone on the screen. You're looking at the environment. You're looking at the tone of their face. So there's a lot that you can observe in this platform. So moving back to kind of the attention span of millennials and the Gen Xers and the Gen Zs. So I said their attention span, all of our attention spans are dwindling. But when we look specifically like at a task where someone has to focus on, say in the classroom or at work, attention span is about 90 seconds. I mean, so you really have to hook your students to engage. We've all been in classrooms where you notice the students are like looking looking at their phones like this, because they constantly need to be engaged in something. You have to find something to kind of hook them. A couple years ago, when we were working on some projects with the National League of Nursing and developing some teaching strategies and some case studies, we realized that one of the most important things that we needed to do was make sure that students thought the case studies were real. And I'll talk a little bit about how we did that and how that really helped to increase students' ability to pay attention. So when you look at different studies that have been done, and this is not a surprise, 9 of 10 respondents say there's a strong, if I said a strong narrative or a story. They need to feel connected to something. That this helps with the ability to maintain their attention. People who who thought the presentation lacked substance, it didn't challenge them mentally. They were just they were given data and not asked to sort of synthesize that data. Felt like the information, they lost the attention of the participants and they didn't learn what they needed to learn. So when we talk about telehealth, so I guess I can't see all of you right now. Is there anybody else who's teaching nursing, or can you give me an idea of what you're teaching? Anybody?
I am a nurse, but I'm also a clinical psychologist. So I'm looking to this more to include curriculum in our addictions counseling program that we offer with telehealth.
That's great.
So psychiatric nursing has always been my area.
Yay. Anybody else? Anyone else in the health sciences at all? I'm sorry, I didn't hear. So telehealth, it's a vital component to the delivery of health. And as I said, many of us have done telehealth as on the other end of the spectrum, as clients or as patients in the healthcare arena, as we can't go into offices right now because of the quarantine. It can help with consultation. It can help with assessment, with monitoring, diagnosis, treatment, transferring of information. So it can be used, this tool that we're using, this telehealth platform that we're using as a teaching strategy can be used maybe with medical assisting, physical therapists, medical assisting students, occupational therapy students, any place where somebody has to gather some information and has to do it in a format where they're looking at a person, they may be doing it in person if we weren't in COVID, or maybe not. Their telehealth was going on before we had the issues with COVID. Helps with client education. So anyone who's teaching, who's in a platform where you're teaching, students about to be educators. This is a great way to kind of practice some of that. And just any kind of professional development, again, goes with the teaching piece of it. So I'm going to walk you through the process that we actually started doing this last semester, and then I'm going to show you how it sort of shifted a little bit and I guess accelerated a bit after we went to an all online environment. So I'm going to introduce you to Lucy. And this is the case study we did, and that's not really, that's a stock photo I put up there. And what we realized years ago when we started to work on I think if everybody muted, one of the things we realized, can you guys hear that? I'm not sure what that is. A couple of years ago, when we started to work on cases with the National League for Nursing, we recognized that students needed to feel like if we went into a class and said, Lucy is an 85-year-old white female who resides at home alone, her partner just died and she's sad, there's no connection. Students couldn't connect with that person. When we shifted to a first-person case and said, hi, my name is Lucy. I'm very sad. My partner just died, and I'm feeling very anxious. There was a better ability to connect. When we further switched that, and we actually, and these are all available for free, and I can tell you where all those are on the NLN website, we switched them to a monologue where actors actually read the monologue and were very convincing as the patients. The students really were engaged because these folks became real people. They became real people. The NLN had funding. They got real actors to do the monologue. So the students could listen to this person they were very connected with now because they wanted to help Lucy. She wasn't Lucy as an 85-year-old white female. She was a real person. So the way we started to do this is we looked at the cases that were already available, and we thought, well, why reinvent the wheel? Let's use what's out there. So we gave the student this background, and this was the case. We said to the students, and we gave them this beforehand, you are delivering care via telehealth as a triage nurse in an outpatient primary care practice in a rural community. So we set up what it was. And again, these cases are available on the NLN website. You can change them in any way you want to make them pertinent to whatever you're teaching. Your client is Lucy. She is accessing your office via a Zoom telehealth platform, and we've looked at her chart. So we're going to give the student the chart, and again, put whatever you want in the chart, whatever is pertinent to what you have. This is Lucy's history. She has a distant history of tobacco, doesn't drink very much. Her significant other, Julia, died 3 months ago after a lengthy illness. Lucy's in the office today in a follow-up. She's been in the emergency room a couple of times with shortness of breath and feeling anxious, talking a lot about the death of her significant other, Julia, and it's hard to get back to anything that's meaningful. So she's reporting a weight loss. She was started on sertraline. So, anyone who's in the psychiatric arena at all knows it looks like she's getting more depressed. She's grieving and she's depressed. So now she's being seen in follow-up. So we give the students these materials ahead of time. So not that much ahead of time, though. We give them, we brought them into class. We did this as a seminar. We brought them into class, gave them the material. So much like they would get them the way they would if they were working, wherever they were working. They wouldn't necessarily have the information the day before. I'm going to go see this client, and this is what is going on with them. Then a whole review of the systems. Rather than doing the monologue, we did it live. So that's me. I was Lucy, and I read the monologue. I tried to look a little different. That is not the decor of my office. That I was trying to make it look like not an office. You can see you can't really see very well on here. I put some props up there. So we put I think that's a big thing, a coffee, because Lucy talks about not being able to sleep, and hopefully the examiner would pick up, oh, I see you have a lot of coffee there. Tell me how much coffee you're drinking. And me as Lucy, as the client, was able to ad lib and try to bring things into it that we wanted the students to be able to focus on. So we wanted them to focus on, recognize that there might be a quality of depression here. The students did not see the monologue ahead of time. So what happened was that all of a sudden they were in seminar. I'll show you the schedules next. I popped up on the screen and said, hello. My name is Lucy. I was told to show up here. Is anyone there? And the students interviewed me. So the next slide talks about the importance of the schedule. This is really, really important, that this is done in a very prescribed way. So students got the information about 10 minutes before they met Lucy. They had a URL. Now, mind you, I was in my office doing this. They were down the hall. They didn't know where I was. They were down the hall in their seminar rooms. They logged in via a URL. They logged into Zoom. They formulated questions ahead of time based on the monologue. Just want to make sure I am okay here. They formulated questions ahead of time based on the monologue, but they had one representative who asked the questions. I thought my computer was going to go out there. We're good. So they had the questions, and one representative asked Lucy the questions. Had about 10 minutes to do that. After they were done with that, they went offline. As a group, they came up with a treatment plan for Lucy. What was going to be the plan for Lucy? Then they came back online, and instead of being Lucy, I was then Lorene Riley, the advanced practice psychiatric nurse, and they pitched me their treatment plan. So here they are pitching me their treatment plan about what the treatment plan was, and I gave them then feedback about that treatment plan. I said to them, well, maybe you want to consider this, or maybe you want to consider that. Was great that you picked that up. How about the coffee? We talked about what the treatment plan would look like. So I just want to go back to the previous schedule. This was the schedule again. And then after they pitched me their treatment plan, they went back to their seminar faculty and they debriefed on the whole experience. They debriefed a little on the content, but mainly about what it was like to interview somebody in this kind of a format. So some of the outcomes of the faculty. So at first, the faculty said, oh, this seems complicated. What if the technology doesn't work? What is going to happen? And we all work together to develop this. And our faculty is great at doing pilots. Let's try it. Let's see if it works. If it works, great. If it doesn't, let's try it. They're all very willing to try stuff. So after it was over, and this is a picture of us debriefing it, and they said, wow, that was fun. Students had a great opportunity to use their assessment skills in a remote setting. They were very engaged. They wanted to know more. Again, circling back to Julia was a real person. She wasn't just this case study on a piece of paper. They were engaged. They were interested in helping Julie. They were interested in figuring out how they could best help her. Then COVID happened. So we did this last semester. And we thought, well, let's revisit that. That was a cool experience. And then COVID happened, and we had to start developing all sorts of activities. And how were we going to transition a clinical course to an online setting? How are we going to meet all of the objectives to that? So the faculty went to work. There they are, charging at it. They went at it and tried to figure out what they could do. And we thought, you know what? Let's try it again. Let's try this telehealth thing again, and let's see if it will work. And let's make it pertinent to what's going on now. So we developed a quick, and again, we already had the baseline of how to do this. We developed another case that involved telehealth that allowed them to think about something that's happening in the current environment. So this is what they were given. You are delivering care via telehealth as a nurse in Philadelphia during a citywide quarantine due to coronavirus. Your client is Bridget. She's a 57-year-old, lives with her husband. She's requested an appointment today. She's more anxious. She hasn't been able to visit her mother in an assisted living. This is all, stuff that we're all seeing, reading about. She's concerned that she has the virus, and this is the first time you're meeting with Bridget. So why don't we take a moment and see what this might look like? So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to go away for 10 seconds, and I'm going to come back as Bridget. Hello? Hello? Hello, I was told to come here to see a nurse practitioner.
Yes, hello. Hello, Bridget. My name is Dan. I am a nurse practitioner.
Can you see me?
I can see you clearly. Can you see me?
I can see you, yep.
Great. Tell me how you've been feeling. What's been going on?
Oh, I'm so nervous. I'm so anxious. My mother is in an assisted living. I usually see her every day. I can't see her. My heart's just pounding, and I'm worried I have the virus.
Well, I'm very happy you were able to get in contact with us. I'm going to see if I can help you out with this today. Tell me, what's been going on with you that you may think you have the coronavirus?
I just don't feel well. I have some fatigue. I'm very tired. I just can't sleep. I've been drinking a little bit at night because I just can't sleep, and I'm so worried about my mother, and my heart just keeps pounding, and I know they said some cardiovascular symptoms of coronavirus.
Okay. Do you mind if I ask you a few questions?
Okay, sure.
You mentioned that you were drinking a little bit. Can you tell me how much you've been drinking?
A little bit.
A little bit. Okay. And a little bit of what exactly?
Whatever I have. I found this whiskey in the cabinet, so I tried some of that.
Okay. Would you say you were drinking prior to the coronavirus?
No, just with my girlfriends, some wine. But now I feel like I need to drink to get to sleep because my heart's going and my head's going. I'm worried I have it. I'm worried about my mother.
I see. Have you taken medication to try to help you sleep?
Oh, no, I would never do anything like that. And I'm really not on any medication now. I hardly take anything. And I would normally see my doctor, but my doctor retired and I didn't get a chance to get a new doctor. So that's how I got to you.
I understand. All right. Well, are you able to tell me more specifics about exactly how you're feeling?
I'm just feeling anxious. I can't sleep. My heart is going pounding, and I'm very tired. Do you think that's coronavirus?
I think we need to discuss a little more.
Okay. So, put my whiskey away. Get my glasses on. Let me share my screen again. Okay. Okay. So that was just sort of a brief example of how we, obviously it would have lasted much longer, of how we can use a telehealth platform. So as you listen to Bridget, and depending on what your focus might be, you can think about other questions that you may want to ask Bridget that you would have put into the monologue, into the discussion. And again, noticing her background. So we did a version of this. The whiskey here was actually on the fireplace, and the students were very funny. They didn't know if that was supposed to be a prop or whether I had a lot of whiskey in my fireplace. So that was a whole other discussion, yeah. But the ability to observe the background and to put props in to kind of prompt them to be able to increase their visual skills. So the other important part of this exercise is the debriefing questions. You know, what unique knowledge and skills, what did you need to interview via virtual modality? So the students talked, and Dan's going to talk a little bit more about their responses, but just the comfort level, just how it was sometimes uncomfortable for them, you know, teaching students to understand that in an interview process, being comfortable with silence. We asked them about challenges when conducting the interview, and are there any advantages? And clearly one of the advantages is the ability to be able to access more people. How prepared did they feel like? And again, our students were sort of thrown into this. This was a pilot program. They started it, and we thought it can go anyway. And when we did it the second time, we used a lot of their feedback to change some of the things that we did. We asked them what additional information skills they would be helpful in preparing them to do a virtual environment, and what surprised them the most. So these were just some general debriefing questions that you can, you know, alter to make more applicable to whatever the objectives that you may have are. And then just reminding students, and we posted the Zoom etiquette with their seminar assignment and the objectives, that making sure that everyone was muted who wasn't speaking, making sure that there was somebody assigned to ask the questions, making sure the video was in a spot. And so some of this, sometimes when we've done this, we purposely had the video not in a spot where they could see the patient, where they had to prompt the person they were interviewing to move their video equipment a bit. Making sure that they muted, you know, again, they were muting, that was a big one. And then making sure to hit the record button, because we wanted to be able to have access to it afterwards, or you may not want that. And so the goal of all this was also to think about the role of the team, that you're a team member doing this, and what is your role in doing in this activity. There you go, Dan.
Yeah, and so, you know, with anything that we do, we want to make sure that there is, you know, a good bit of value that comes with it. So we did debrief, and we got overarchingly a large amount of positive responses when we did this, and some of them are listed there. You know, these are direct quotes from students. You know, they did really value the ability to work as a team. You know, this kind of platform gives them, you know, an opportunity to work together. Sometimes when they're in a classroom setting, it's, you know, it's a sea of faces, and it's hard for them to really focus in. When you're on a platform such as this, you really, it's intimate, but you can also still, you know, be able to communicate with each other, you know, just in a different way that they really did, they did appreciate. They said they felt less pressure and better able to learn. You know, it's kind of a safe space for them to ask questions, sometimes in their clinical settings or in the classroom, you know, when you're surrounded by all these people, even though they might be able to view you in a Zoom platform, you know, they felt a little more comfortable speaking up. And they said it was a great experience for them to work on their interview skills. A lot of them, again, you know, when they're in front of other folks, it's a little hard for them to do it, but this gave them an opportunity a little bit to be in their comfort zone, you know, in their home or in front of their computer to really think about how they would interview somebody. And they all agreed that they would be using this, and they use the skills that they developed from this in, looking for jobs even, would transfer over into interviewing skills, which a lot of them are out there, trying to do right now. So overall, we had some really positive student responses.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, hello. Hi, I'm Carol. Let me talk a little bit about how this came about. Initially, when we started talking about the telehealth activity, we were going to collaborate with another school who had students in physical therapy, occupational therapy, as well as pharmacy. So we wanted to bring in other disciplines. The plan was for all of the students at the other institution and our nursing students to collaborate on a virtual platform, each offering different perspectives on their specialty. So we plan on doing this in the future now, but we decided to start with all of our nursing students first and build out from there till we decided we were confident enough with this activity to move on. And we are exploring collaborating with the acting students at our college. They're very interested in the partnership, and this would enable us to have a real patient interact with students, somebody that they weren't familiar with, they didn't recognize as one of us. It also allows the acting students to have an experience they can use to build their own resumes. So, how do you think you could use this or any major in this platform? Maybe another type of major that focuses on interviewing and documenting. Any ideas out there? Different kind of major than nursing.
I would think communications majors.
Oh, good, Nancy. That's good. Right. Yeah. So same deal. Anyone else have any ideas?
Nancy mentioned, Nancy, you work with substance use disorder counselors?
Yes, so we have an addictions counseling program. We also have a nursing program on our campus, medical assisting, social work. So, I could see that I could certainly call in all these other different departments, which I haven't thought of. So that's a great plus from this.
And the team amount of it, because the team piece of it, would be great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So
they could do. So I wanted to say to you that we are more than happy to share this telehealth activity we developed. If you want to do that, please feel free to email Lorene. So it's lriley@ccp.edu. But make sure when you do that, in the heading, you put faculty of the future, so she knows what she's looking at with the email.
And we're on the WOVA app, so you can connect with me that way. I'm happy to, we're happy to share anything we have. We've developed it, use it, to edit it, whatever you want.
Well, thank you very much. This was very informative.
Well, we want to thank you for your attention, and I want to remind you also that this is the year of the nurse and the midwife.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I've started binge watching Call of the Midwife on Netflix.
Yeah,
excellent.
It's
a great show.
Yeah, it is.
It's terrific.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you. I'm sorry, it's Antoinette McCreary. Just wanted to say thank you for making the case study come alive. We use case studies, but what a creative way to put a face behind a case study and use our colleagues. So thank you.
Yeah, I think that we've talked a lot about we educate in silos and then throw everyone out to work together. So having opportunities to be able to educate people in the same way, and where you can rely on their expertise is a bonus. Thank you. Can we answer any other questions?
Laureen, it looks like there was a little kind of like in Zoom where people can ask questions, and
Okay.
Gen Z had asked if we address HIPAA issues at all.
Yeah, we do address HIPAA issues. And we talked about the legal and ethical, I'm seeing the chats now. We address the legal and ethical pieces of this. We do absolutely talk about HIPAA. So making sure that the environment, obviously we're doing it as a teaching thing, we're on Zoom, but that it is, you're doing this in real life, you would use telehealth on a platform that is secure. And also making sure that it is not as a platform where other people can't hear what you're saying. Yep, good point. The case studies that come alive. Oh, I teach Anna and teaches nursing at Box. Great. I'm a dean, but also a nurse. That's great. Always a nurse. I'm just reading through these HIPAA. Thanks for sharing. Thank you, everybody. And again, please feel free to reach out. We're more than happy to share what we have. If you have any ideas and want to collaborate with us, we're happy to do that also. Thanks.